Hello and welcome to the Smart Beauty Podcast. I'm your host, Viola Levy, beauty journalist and founder of copy-led branding agency, Smart Beauty Creative. We're here to create your brand voice and craft the story behind it. So today's guest is Lauren Bell, the inspiring founder behind Cosi Care, a groundbreaking brand that's redefining how we manage itchy, eczema-prone skin. Lauren's journey began with a personal mission to create a safe steroid-free solution for her brother, who battled severe eczema and topical steroid withdrawal for years. What started as a university project has since grown into a multi-award-winning global brand, celebrated for its innovative, stylish, and effective safe scratching devices. Lauren is not just a beauty founder, but a trailblazer who's turning personal pain points into a thriving business that's helping thousands find relief. I'm so excited to dive into her story, her unique approach to product design, and what's next for Cosi Care. Welcome, Lauren.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. So your brother's eczema struggles initially sparked the idea for Cosi Care. I mean, it's an issue that I've personally been affected by, my friends have been affected by. I mean, we know so many people that have this issue. So how did you identify the gap for a safe scratching device, and what made you confident that this problem could be solved?
So my little brother has had eczema since he was about 3, and I studied product design and engineering at university. So when it was time to do my kind of final year major project, we were tasked to kind of solve a problem through design. That was the kind of overarching theme. So I spent weeks thinking like, oh my gosh, what am I gonna create? I was thinking of heels that you can wear flat and like random things. And then I was like, actually, I want to solve a problem where that my family can relate to. And then I looked at my brother and thought, my gosh, my brother's lived with eczema, itchy skin, the struggle of trying to help him through scratching and just stop scratching or stop scratching was such a like famous phrase in my household. So I
Yeah.
focused like all my energy into solving that specific problem for my brother. And I think through my research then realized how many people actually live with the same condition, live with the same problems, and that there was nothing really centered around instant relief. So that's kind of how it all started. And it quite quickly, I started to realize how the sheer scale of the market and the sheer scale of the problem.
Definitely, because you're told sort of not to scratch, which is not very helpful when you're
Yeah.
in the throes of it. And like your brother, I sort of became a bit addicted to topical steroid treatments myself. So I
Oh, I
can
see.
completely
Right.
relate. Luckily, my eczema is no longer an issue, but when it was really bad. So it's yeah, I think it's a massive issue that not many people talk about.
Yeah, of
And
course.
I know you come from quite a creative and entrepreneurial family background. Can you tell us a bit about how that influenced your approach to bringing this to market?
Yeah, so my dad runs a business. My brother also runs his own barbering business. So I think naturally I've always been around very entrepreneurial people, kind of people that have ideas and kind of want to do things for themselves in that respect. So yeah, I found my dad very inspiring in that way. And even when me and my brother were younger, we used to like make cards and sell cards around like the neighborhood. It was kind of just like we were always a little bit creative and trying to think of ways to make money and try and think of ways like to do stuff quite differently. So it's always kind of been in us. And when I relate to like the problem with my family specifically, it's like my dad was the one that used to use things like cold flannels and different like feather dusters and different things to like tickle my brother and calm down my brother, just just to have anything physical to kind of cool him down. So from like a creative aspect, my parents, my dad specifically, would kind of find objects and things to try and cool my brother's skin, so that also
Yeah.
like inspired things as well.
And it sounds like it was a very emotional journey. So what were the key sort of moments that really stand out for you that shaped the direction of the brand?
Yeah, I mean, anyone who has eczema or has gone through TSW, which is topical steroid withdrawal, will know that it's much more than a skin condition. It can affect everything from mental health to school, diet, family relationships. It's so kind of all consuming, especially when you have more severe forms of the condition. You know, you can struggle to sleep, eat, go to school. Like there's so many different things that can happen. The biggest challenge really was kind of seeing my brother go through TSW, like the realization through my research for Cosi Care that we always thought my brother just had severe eczema for like 20 years. And gradually, kind of in his early 20s, then it hit a point where the steroid creams just didn't work for him anymore. So, you know, and then in parallel to that, I was at university doing this project and being online, actually researching into eczema, the different communities, the different treatments. We actually, through my research, identified what my brother was going through. So then that took like a huge turn of, okay, stop using the medication. He actually got diagnosed by his doctor as having a topical steroid addiction and withdrawal. And now he's pivoted to kind of like more natural, holistic approaches. So yeah, it was so challenging to have to be part of that discovery, because it was really challenging for my brother to, it was almost like a penny drop, like, oh my gosh, this is what's making my skin worse, which was really scary.
Definitely. And I can imagine it was, yeah, a huge, it affects the whole family, I imagine, not just the individual involved. I mean, I've got a close friend who suffers from it terribly, and she's actually
Oh,
trying one of your safe scratchers, and she said
oh yeah.
she received it. She's like, "Thank you so much."
Oh,
She was so,
bless.
so
Oh,
grateful because yeah, she's going through a really bad breakup, and her eczema is really, really bad at the moment. So
oh, I see.
it's everything sort of like relates to it, doesn't it? Everything else
Mhm.
that's going on in your life, it's all interconnected.
Absolutely. Yeah, it can be triggered by stress or a change in environment. Like there's so many things that can trigger it. And I think what's challenging, because I've got eczema myself, is the like unpredictability of it. And it's kind of like
Yes.
not knowing when it's coming next. Or yeah, it's so challenging. It's such a unique condition to have to explain to someone. But unfortunately, a lot of people can relate because they've been through it themselves.
No, for sure. That's why I think, it's such a great idea to come up with. But
Thank
obviously,
you.
everyone has a lot of great ideas when they're at uni, but not everyone manages to bring a product to market and make a viable business out of it. I mean, so
Yeah.
what were the kind of main challenges with that? I mean, your story is so inspiring. Like, how did you kind of navigate um, yeah, all of that journey?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's been kind of a crazy kind of journey, I guess. So I graduated, and then after graduation, we kind of did like an exhibition. So we kind of showed off what we'd been working on all year. And I was approached by an accelerator, a business accelerator. And they said, look, we think you've got a great idea. Have you ever thought of turning this into a business? And I was like, okay, well, not I've always known that I would have loved to have done that, but I didn't almost expect it to happen so quickly.
That must have felt incredible when they said that. I
I
mean,
was like, yeah, amazing. So they were like, okay, put your application in. You can win £5,000. We'll give you business mentorship for 6 months. And I felt like I'd won the lottery. Do you know what I mean?
I
Like
can
a
imagine, yeah.
student getting 5 grand to do, their to continue their kind of creative project. It was amazing. So I ended up getting that, which was fantastic. And then we ended up visiting manufacturers in China to try and understand, how things are made. How do you scale? How do you actually turn an idea into a commercial product? So
Hmm.
yeah, that's kind of what sparked it all. And then there was huge challenges with, as every entrepreneur will tell you, with raising funds and building a team and working out how to get to market and building your social media. There's so many parts and components to a business.
Definitely.
It's been like 6 years pretty much of just full time every day, just figuring it out. That's how I explain it.
Exactly. 'Cause a lot of people, they have other careers first and then sort of go
Mm.
into business for themselves. But you had to really hit the ground running
Yeah,
straight out of uni.
I was a student, and my background's obviously design, so I had that creative skill set, but I didn't necessarily have the kind of business understanding. I think there's definitely certain personality traits that make someone a good entrepreneur, but I think business and actually starting a business is like some fundamental things you've got to learn. You've got to learn about writing a business plan. You've got to learn about raising investment. You've got to learn about, hiring and HR. Like there's so many bits
Moving
to it that
parts.
you don't even think about when you're like fresh out of uni.
Definitely. And I think being a founder and being a CEO are two different things, but that people just sort of say them together, like founder and CEO, but they're
Yeah,
actually two completely separate disciplines,
definitely.
aren't they?
Definitely. Yeah.
And what advice would you give to other entrepreneurs as to how to like really leverage those opportunities? So say like meeting with accelerators and sort of getting opportunities like that. How would you sort of advise they make the most out of them?
I think that the thing that we did really well is when we started the company, we did a lot of research into what's available to us. So we were new graduates. We had recently set up a company. We were heavy, we were a really heavy R&D business, so a lot of research, a lot of development. And it was just about knowing the different pots of money and opportunities available to you. So I ended up applying for 5 or 6 student-based competitions. So Mayor of London, Santander, Tata, and a couple of others. And there's like really, really incredible like little pots of equity-free funding available. So Mayor of London gave us 25 grand. Tata offered us 15 grand. We had 25 grand off Santander. So all these little pots of money, I say little, obviously that is substantial for a new business, but that all adds up. And we ended up raising about 150 grand in equity free funding. So we hadn't even give a percentage away, but we really like leveraged all these little opportunities. And I think another great tip that I would advise to anyone starting a new business is consider kind of local pots of funding. So if you're based in London, or if you're a Welsh-based business, really try and understand like different government supports, like networks, different pots of money in your area, because there's loads of opportunities, especially if you're an innovation company doing something new. There's so much money out there. There's so much opportunity out there. It's just about knowing where to look, I think, and just taking the time to like understand what's available.
That's the thing. I think people don't know about it, so they just are oblivious.
They just almost don't look. Yeah, I think if you've got, for example, like my business is within healthcare. We were based in London at the time. So Mayor of London was perfect competition for us because their objective was to invest in innovation in London. So that kind of specific pot was perfect. But, if you're a company in Wales, Development Bank of Wales, for example, you can get little loans, you can get I think they offer like different networking opportunities. So it's just about putting yourself out there and never thinking, oh, this isn't quite right for me, or I'm not quite there yet. When I applied for Mayor of London, I had one prototype, and to be honest, I'd never pitched before. I went into that and I didn't quite fit into any of the categories either. So I was kind of just winging it a little bit. But I think the key is just to enter it with confidence and tweak your pitch to kind of answer the objectives of the funding. So the Mayor of London, for example, was all about how are you making London great? Why is London a great place to start your company? So just tailoring your pitch for that, it goes a long way.
And how did it feel kind of when you were pitching like to these investors? Was it was it kind of a bit like Dragon's Den, or was it
it really was. Like, so one of the judges was Richard Reed, who's the founder of Innocent Smoothie. So he was a personal kind of idol of mine, because I'd watched some of his documentaries on how he started his company, and like he did like amazing things for like company culture and kind of challenged that a little bit. So yeah, having him in front of me was amazing, and had some great feedback from him. So yeah, I was very kind of like thrown in at the deep end a little bit, but it was a great way to kind of meet people and just get things going, really.
Definitely. And I think as a female founder as well, there's a lot of chatter. I see a lot of chatter on LinkedIn about how it's such a struggle for female founders in particular to get investment.
Yeah.
So it's just a huge, it's just a huge issue, isn't it, really, that people are still kind of tackling. But it's so great that there are companies like yours that are getting that funding and are sort of being allowed to take their business idea to the next level. I think that's brilliant.
Definitely. Yeah, I think the biggest challenge with female founders is there's so many opportunities for us that specifically are around support. I think there's so many great kind of like networks of support systems, mentorship, and networking opportunities. But ultimately, just like any business, we need funding. So I think it's great to have that network element, but ultimately we need investment. And I think at the current state that we're in, I think it's something like a 1-to-4 ratio, men versus women who get funding. Do you know what I mean? And even my experience in raising investment, the majority of people I pitch to are men. So there's not even a lot of female VCs, female investors,
Yeah, it's
female angel
depressing, isn't it?
investors. It's a difficult space to be in. But I think, in my career, I've met some incredible female founders, and, it's
Mm.
getting better, but I think there's definitely more to be done for sure.
Oh, for sure. I think it's important just not to be brought down by the negativity surrounding those conversations, because it is quite
100%.
it's quite a depressing story. But then there are success stories like yours that goes to show that, yeah, that there is a way it can
Possible.
be done.
Yeah, definitely,
Mm.
definitely. I think it's just about, really just going for it and not to feel kind of intimidated by any statistics or any kind of room that you walk into. If you're one of a couple of women, try not to let that kind of dull your sparkle a little bit, or kind of make you think, oh, maybe I'm not worthy to be here, maybe I'm not big enough, fast enough, strong enough. Do you know what I mean? Like, just kind of be in that mindset of, I deserve to be here too, and I deserve to have the investment just like anyone else. I deserve to be part of the conversation. So just have, I think, confidence for me has been something that I've tried to actively work on in those kind of situations.
It's really key, isn't it? And do you think having a strong story is crucial to getting investors on board?
100%. I think people buy into why you do something versus what you're doing always. So that's why the best pitches I've ever watched, they always lead with why they're doing it. So,
Mm.
is it a family member that's inspired you? Is it an event in your life that's triggered this idea? So starting with the why is always the way to kind of capture someone's interest. I think if you the best and the worst pitches I've seen, the best are definitely story led. The worst pitches I see are often people that just reel off stats and
Yes,
data and facts, and you don't have that emotional connection to what they're saying. So I
there's
think
no heart to it.
there's no heart to it.
Mm.
People relate to people, and I think, having a great product is obviously essential, but don't lead with that. Lead with like you as a founder and like why you're doing it. I think there's always so much more strength to that.
For sure. I think the story is almost as important as the product that you've got, isn't it?
100%. Yeah. I mean, the story, I would say, is the reason we won most of the funding, is because people, when I told my brother's story and the challenges he's had, and the number of judges, people in the audience that would say, my gosh, my little girl's got eczema, or my niece has got eczema, or my grandfather's got eczema. There's that, people instantly relate to it, and then they can
Mm.
kind of understand why you're doing it. Then there's an element of trust, and then they know that you're coming from a place of not financial motivation. It's kind of an emotive motivation instead.
Of course. And not only is your product functional, but it also looks great. How did you
Oh, thank
find
you.
the right balance when you were creating it? Because obviously, I'm sure that lots of people would have just gone down the medical clinical route, but you
Mm.
actually wanted something that looked nice on the bathroom shelf.
Yeah, definitely. I think the way that I approached it is that, having my eczema myself, my brother having eczema, and you'll know as well, if you struggle with it, when you shop for eczema clothing, eczema creams, it's all very white, it's all very boring. And for children, there was that element of like constantly feeling like you're being medicated. So the way I approached it is, let's start off by making these look like almost toys, and then working backwards from that. So very kind of like fun colors, nice shapes. All of our products are kind of like sea life creatures, because it's all about kind of that cooling element as well.
Yes.
So yeah, that's kind of where I took my inspiration from. And I also wanted to keep it quite minimal as well. Like, I think
Mm.
Apple do a really nice job of very kind of like, even though our scratch star is a starfish and our roller is a shark, and we've got some other like little pufferfish products coming out, even though there's a nod to that character, it's still very like minimal. So that was the kind of a design approach that I took. Just looking at companies like Apple and how they kind of design their products was really inspiring.
Yeah, very chic, very streamlined, aren't they?
Yeah, yeah,
And obviously it's a medical product, and I've got to, when I first heard about it, because there is, like I say, you're just told don't scratch, and it's the worst thing you can do. So
yeah.
with that kind of in mind, how did you make sure that you were kind of adhering to all of the kind of medical regulations? I mean, I'm sure that was a huge challenge, just to make sure that your product was safe and that was yeah, considered like approved for for use by the public?
Yeah, definitely. So I did my first trade show when I first launched the brand, and I had 6 samples. And the way that I started it was just doing market research. I asked people to hold and feel the products. We did a user trial with over 200 parents and just got their feedback. That was the initial kind of approach. And then when we got their feedback, we then categorized the product. So what do we want these products to do, and what are our claims? So our claims were itch relief, cooling the skin, soothing itchiness. So these were the main things that we wanted to claim. And then working back from that, we reached out to some kind of classification experts. So they classify medical devices. They put our product in the category of like a class 1 medical device. So then that moved us on to a process that's kind of like biocompatibility testing, cytotoxicity testing. So all the materials are certified safe for skin contact. And then we also engaged with kind of like medical papers, medical research papers, looking into cold and itchiness and the research there, looking into massage and itchiness, looking into how different habit reversals and distraction techniques. So we took all this research that existed around the efficacy and safety of cold, texture, massage, distraction, and we almost put it into one product that we then independently certified as well. So there's all these layers. And something that we do for all our products as well is we don't legally have to do this, but we get all the products tested under toy regulations as well. So we do too.
Oh,
So
great.
we've got this like layer of safety. So just to make sure that like things like, for example, choke testing or drop testing, or all these kind of very toy specific things that we also do as a layer on top as well. So yeah, I'm a bit of a nerd when it comes to compliance because I try and just do all the right things, if that makes sense.
Well, I think you have to be a nerd. I think when you've got a medical product, I think it just
Definitely.
it definitely
You
serves
have
you
to,
well.
yeah.
It sounds like it's a true labor of love. I mean, what were the most interesting insights from getting your customer feedback and doing all your research? Was there anything that really kind of jumped out at you that then shaped how the product developed?
So originally, funny enough, all the text, so all the bumps on the start rolled. So one of our initial prototypes that we tested with consumers was all these little bumps were kind of like rotating. And then one of the challenges we had there was like hygiene, because we didn't want any area of the product to be able to get dirty or harbor bacteria or be really difficult to clean. So we did some tests then. We gave 10 people just non-rolling bumps, 10 people rolling bumps, and we actually asked them to compare the sensation. And because it's smooth metal, it's actually really hard to tell if it's rolling or not. So we were able to improve the hygiene of the product without sacrificing feel. And then that drove us into doing a 1-part metal plate versus all these like little rolling balls. But we were able to keep the rolling ball massage aspect with a larger product, but that can be disassembled and cleaned. So it was kind of like the Scratch Attack roller was born from a challenge that we faced with the Scratch Star, and then it ended up pivoting to 2 products. But yeah, product development is like that. Sometimes you just have to compare and contrast and get different feedback on different designs and everything. And sometimes the design you think people are going to like, I thought, oh, the rolling ball is definitely the winner, even though it's a challenge with cleaning it. We, sensation wise, I think it feels better. But then when you actually speak to a group of people and they say it doesn't feel any different, then that drives your thinking then.
Definitely. And obviously, as you say, you have to be so patient with this process, don't you? And make sure you get the product that's actually going to work for people.
Yeah.
So you've got the product, you've brought it to market. And so let's talk scaling, because obviously that's a whole other kind of challenge in itself, right?
Yeah, it's so tricky. Yeah, because scaling is, we sold out of the Scratch Star. I think we've sold out now 4 or 5 times, because we couldn't quite crack supply and demand. So for example, we'd put a video on TikTok, we'd go viral, and then we'd sell out, and it was like, oh my gosh, I've got to now reorder. Like, you can't predict sometimes like what video is going to land and how your marketing efforts are going to go. So that was like a couple of years ago, one of the biggest challenges we found to strike that balance. But how we've kind of overcome that now is we've got a couple of supply chains. We just signed off on a UK manufacturing project. So a lot of our scratch stars now will be made in the UK, which is amazing, because now what that means
Brilliant.
is that there's quicker lead times. They're here. We're selling them where we make them. So it's just so much easier to order stock, because lead times, for example, you could be looking at 3 months for a batch. Do you know what I mean? So
Mm.
yeah, managing that stock versus demand there's like an art to it that I think most hardware businesses will relate to, is really hard to crack in the early days.
For sure. Imagine you must feel like you have to clone yourself sometimes to sort of
Oh,
get around all these different.
and you almost
Uh,
have to be a bit of like have a crystal ball almost, to be like, okay, we know we're doing a couple of posts on Instagram, but sometimes they flop, and then other times you get this amazing response, and sometimes it's really hard to predict like how
hmm.
it's going to translate to sales. So yeah, it's a bit of a like a balancing act really. And then obviously if sales are picking up, you've then got to scale down your marketing, so you don't want to do big marketing activities if you haven't got the stock. So it's, yeah, it's
Yeah.
just like a balance constantly.
Definitely. And I think a lot of brands sometimes make the mistake of thinking, well, they've gone viral, so that's it. They don't have to do any more work.
Yeah.
You look at the likes of Clinique, who's like black honey lipstick. I don't know if you saw it like a few years ago, it went viral on TikTok.
Yeah, yeah.
And then there's recently news that Sephora are like dropping the makeup line from their stores. So it just goes to show that you can go viral on social media, but you need to kind of ensure that longevity over
Consistency.
time. I mean, how do you kind of tackle that when it comes to kind of maintaining the shelf life of your brand in the long term?
I think the long term goal for us is to, so I've worked quite hard to create a product range that is very kind of specialized. So
Mm.
every product that we launch is for a specific area on the body. So we've recently launched like a scalp scratcher that's specifically for scalp psoriasis, scalp eczema.
Amazing.
In a couple of months, we're launching a little finger scratcher. We're launching pajamas. We've got pajamas coming in
Oh,
next
wow.
month. So yeah, there's loads of products and projects happening. And what I want to get to is this beautiful range of products for every area of the body that'll feel itchy. And
Mm.
every product is also designed to last a lifetime. So it's not kind of like a moisturizer or something that you have to buy every month. It's something that you
Yeah.
invest in, and then you almost got it for life. So I think when it comes to longevity, it's about making sure that we design products that are designed to last. So there's that trust, and there's that, that long-term safety of using the products. And then also there's that piece of creating a beautiful range where if you do get a flare up on your scalp, you've got a product to help. And then maybe at some point in the future, then I would also love to do our own skincare. Like
I was
that's
going to
that would
ask.
be the dream. Yeah, like skincare
Mm.
that's perfectly designed to use with our products. We're a small team, but like we have got a lot of like new product development happening, which is really exciting.
That's fantastic. And how do you decide what to kind of innovate next when it comes to like MPD?
Honestly, 99% of the time it's driven by comments on social media.
Mm.
So the scalp scratcher came from, we did a video with a creator called Rosie, who has lived with severe psoriasis all over her body for a number of years, and she suffers with scalp psoriasis. So we did a collaboration video with her, and there were so many comments with people saying, I've got it on my scalp, I've got it on my scalp. The scalp seemed to be the main pain point when living with psoriasis.
Yeah.
So the scratch star wasn't suitable, the roller certainly wasn't suitable. So that then made us design something medical grade for scalp psoriasis. So it's very kind of community led. And I always encourage people, if they are living with a skin condition, an itchy skin condition, and they have our scratched out or any of our products, and they're not, maybe it's not quite suitable for a specific area or whatever it is, always reach out, because we're such a nimble company. We can actually design and launch products so quickly,
Yes.
because we've got our medical certs
Amazing.
now. We have that flexibility. So yeah, I always
Mm.
say speak to me, because literally the scalp scratcher came from comments on social media. So there's always a way to, put your um, you know, ideas in and actually be part of like the journey with us, which is so exciting.
That's fantastic. So they can just drop you a DM and you'd be like,
I
okay, we'll
make
put
it,
that in
yeah.
there. I
Not
think that's the
guarantee I can make
benefit.
everything, but you
No,
know,
of
it's
course, of course. I think
but
there's
yeah,
definitely a benefit of being, like you say, like a nimble indie brand that you can react to that
very reactive. Yeah,
feedback.
100%.
And also, when it comes to beauty and wellness in general, I think there's a lot of overlap between the two categories. I think
Yeah.
because of what we were saying earlier about how the stories can be so emotive and people can connect a lot more and just yeah, they can invest in the brand a lot more quickly. Do you
Hmm.
see that kind of growing over time, that kind of beauty and wellness category crossover?
100%. I think, especially with our products, because we do sit within that medical device zone, but there's a lot of crossover with kind of, for example, there's a lot of scalp scratchers on the market. There's beauty rollers. There's all these kind of other products. They're not certified safe for a skin condition, but there is that crossover. If someone did have acne or did have sensitive skin, by investing in our products, you know that you're getting that medical safety aspect, even though you
Yes.
might use it for a cosmetic purpose. So, for
Mm.
example, my mum gets really puffy eyes in the mornings, and she bought this roller, and it was just awful. It was like really poor quality, and it ended up staining her skin or something crazy.
Oh,
And then
wow.
obviously her being my mum, she gets a lot of free Cosi Care products naturally. And she uses our roller now. So there's a lot of crossover with like cosmetic needs and healthcare needs. So you may not have a skin condition. You may, for example, suffer with sunburn in the summer, or you might suffer with puffy eyes, or you might suffer with just kind of like a cosmetic need versus like a medical need that these products work for as well. So we definitely sit within that space of like wellness slash medical. We've done all the work for medical, but there's the use of the product definitely crosses over to kind of cosmetic needs as well.
Mm. And what advice would you give other people who are looking to move into that space of like beauty and wellness, sort of in terms of just sort of creating a beauty brand? Whereas, like, I guess when it's sort of the wellness element, it's very different, isn't it? What kind of advice would you give people going into that arena?
I think the main thing is, oh, well, there's a couple of things. I think making your brand beautiful is, especially in the age of social media, is so important.
Definitely.
There's an element of trust. If they see you've got a beautiful logo, you've got beautiful messaging, a beautiful website, there's instant credibility. So I think investing in a really strong brand visual early on is really important. Not to name names, but there was I entered a beauty specific pitching competition, and there was a couple of companies there, fantastic ideas, like very heavy tech. It was like a wearable product, but it crossed over to like it was like a wearable ring, I think it was.
Yes.
And her pitch was about kind of it's fashion first, and it looks great, but it also has this kind of wellness element to like tracking your I think it was your blood pressure and a few other things, similar to like an
Okay.
Apple Watch kind of thing.
Yes.
But the brand wasn't there, and the investors didn't believe in it because they couldn't see the quality of the brand. So I think having a brand that stands out visually, especially the age of social media, is so important. And also really doing your research into what's out there already, having a clear idea of who your customers are, what they care about, what do they want to see from a brand. Like that's always really, really important. And I think for us, just like building a community, like that's been our biggest strength, is like really trying to connect with people, really trying to put ourselves out there. I get mums, I get dads, I get parents constantly sending me videos and saying we love your brand, and like resharing that on our
Must
socials.
be
So
so rewarding to
yeah, it's
know that you're making
lovely.
a difference in people's lives.
Yeah, it's so nice. So I think, yeah, a bit of a waffly answer there, but there's so much that goes
Not at all.
into kind of like your brand and your credibility. It's yes, it's there's so many different aspects to it, really.
For sure. And I'm sure you must worry about, because your product looks so great, you must be concerned about copycats. I don't know whether you've encountered any so far along the journey, but what is the best way of kind of safeguarding against other companies sort of ripping off your design? I mean, is it just kind of just getting it patented, or is it more complex than that?
I think, yeah, so we went kind of crazy on our IP portfolio. So we're completely covered with kind of patents, trademark and design rights in the US, the UK, Europe, China. Like we've really gone comprehensive with that. And I think another way to kind of safeguard yourself from that is just really creating a quality product, because I think ultimately any good idea will naturally have rip-offs or copycats. You can't fight it. It's consumerism. It's kind of the world we live in. Everyone wants something for a cheaper price. They want it quicker. They want it cheaper. But ultimately, I feel quite strongly that I'm not a parent, but just relating to my brother, I would rather invest in a brand that's done all the certification, all the work, all the safety features, invested in really high quality materials to know that I can use this on my skin and I'm not going to get an infection or get harmed, versus kind of winging it off a brand on Amazon, for example, for a similar thing. So I'm quite happy with the work that's gone into kind of safety and compliance. So because I want to be the Dyson of these products, you know what I mean? I don't want to be, you know, the next best thing. So I mean, yeah, there'll always be competition. I think we're in a good position at the minute. We've not seen it yet, but I am not naive to the fact that it's probably coming. So yeah, I think the only thing I can control is doing things the best way I can do them and creating the best quality products, and then just relying on the credibility of our brand. That's kind of, you know, that's kind of what I want to do.
For sure. And I was going to say, I think you're well on your way to giving James Dyson a run for his money.
The female Dyson, that's what I want to
Yeah,
be.
that's what we need. And I know that eczema as a topic, it's not traditionally a sexy topic, and people as a result don't really talk about it. But obviously there needs to be a conversation surrounding issues, like given what we've just discussed, that it affects so many people in such a severe way. What is like your brand doing to help kind of move the needle in that respect, and kind of help educate more people about eczema and how it affects you and how you can treat it?
Yeah, definitely. That's such a nice question. So next week we actually have a really exciting campaign coming up called the hashtag Just Stop Scratching campaign. So the idea is that is probably the worst advice you can give to someone with eczema
Yes.
is just stop scratching. Like, it's so easy to do. So the idea is we're going to share some testimonials from children and adults with all sorts of itchy skin conditions. So we've got models with harlequin ichthyosis, eczema, psoriasis, and they're actually going to share a bit of good advice on how to live with a skin condition. And we're also giving away a free scratch savior guide. So it'll have loads of information on why we scratch, coping mechanisms, mental health support, connections with the community, things that you can actively do to just stop scratching, in brackets.
For sure.
And just that kind of, I want to do more of that free advice, because we do so much research, and I think it's about not gatekeeping that, it's about sharing that.
100%.
So yeah, so that's what we're going to do next week, and that's going to be freely available. And yeah, we've got an app launching as well, where we can connect patients with information, and that will be a medical device in its own right as well. So yeah, we're actively trying to give back as much as we can when it comes to research, education. I've done a lot of work as well in the press with BBC News on raising awareness of my brother's story with topical steroid withdrawal. One of our biggest videos on TikTok is me sharing my granny hands because of my steroid cream use. So yeah, I think just by sharing my personal journey, my brother's story, and the research that we do every day, that's how we're trying to give back.
It sounds brilliant. Well, I'll put all the links to that in the show
Oh,
notes.
amazing. Yeah, thank you.
And what is your kind of vision for the brand? I know we've spoken about sort of product avenues that you hope to go into, but do you have any other kind of long-term plans for where you'd like to take the brand?
Yeah, I mean, in my mind, our brand will be market leaders of instant itch relief around the world. You know, we've put that work in with US patents, with comprehensive IP. So I would love to be able to, I mean, we get so many messages when you launching in the US, when you launching in Canada, when you launching in Australia.
Like
So
it's that easy.
I'm like, oh my gosh, if I could send products to you in America right now, I 100% would. But the red tape and I think and naturally, why would you? But consumers don't realize like the challenge with launching medical devices in the States, for example.
Yeah,
Like we've
especially when you're
recently
not based there full time as well.
100%. It's so hard. And, you know, we've been working on it for a couple of years. We have now got officially our FDA registration, and we are in the process of figuring out logistics and actually getting set up out there. So it's coming. It's just a little bit of a slow burner just because of all the red tape. But yeah, I think for us, we want to go global. We want everyone to be able to access this. And I would also love to be able to work with, you know, organizations like the NHS. So, you know, if you do go to your doctor and you're diagnosed with eczema, instead of the first point of call being, here's a steroid cream, that in the long term, you could, you know, there's all these potential risks. Topical steroid addiction and topical steroid withdrawal being the main ones that really kind of instill a lot of fear in people, and rightly so, because it is such an awful condition. Instead of going straight to that, if we can offer more of an educational piece on diet, lifestyle, stress management, safe scratching, and offer our products as a first point of call, then you know, we could potentially avoid millions of people needing steroids and millions of people having to use antibiotics because they've got an infection. So that's the kind of overarching goal, I guess.
Incredible. Well, given what you've achieved thus far, I think you'll have no problem with yeah,
Thank
doing
you.
all of
I'm
that. I
I'm gonna
think
keep
you're
cracking on in the background, and fingers crossed we'll get there in the end for sure.
Oh, I have every faith. And how's your brother now? How is his eczema? Like, is it has it sort of there been a marked improvement since kind of you've gone on this journey and created all these new products? Is he noticed like a tangible? I'm sure there has been a tangible difference, right?
He's no longer dependent on steroids, which is
That's
such an
great.
incredible achievement, because a lot of people may feel kind of trapped in that cycle. So I think even him not using medication that is making it worse is such a huge win for him.
Mm.
Anyone that's gone through TSW will know that it isn't a linear journey. So he's been going through it now for 3 years. He has had some incredible moments where his skin has healed. He went back to work. He was really thriving. He's recently had a really bad allergic reaction, which has thrown him back a little bit. But just like my mum, he's always got a lot of freebie Cosi Cares to use when he's struggling. And I think he's made like an incredible improvement since being addicted to the medication. When he first stopped using steroids, he was bedbound, he couldn't shower, he couldn't walk, he lost so much weight.
Oh,
His mental
wow.
health was just horrific. But looking back to that now, he's back at work, he is thriving, he is able to swim, go to the gym, his quality of life has improved. He has had moments along the journey, like recently, where he's had an allergic reaction that set him back, but overall his life is just, he's so much clearer now on what his condition is versus
Mm.
before, where it was kind of like, what's happening to my body. So yeah, he's so much better. And I went through TSW as well, but even though we're siblings, it just goes to show how different your journeys can be. Like, I went through TSW for 9 months, and now I've been clear for nearly 2 years, and I don't use any medication now. So
Incredible.
yeah, it just goes to show like how different your journeys can be with a skin condition.
Definitely. Well, do give him my best, and I'm so pleased
Thank
that
you.
he's doing well. Lauren, you're an absolute interviewer's dream. Like, you've provided
Oh,
so
thank you.
much amazing insights that I think people will get so much out of. So thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for your time, and it's been really lovely chatting with you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you for having me. I've loved it.
I hope you enjoyed that episode. All links will be in the show notes, and feel free to visit smartbeautycreative.com or visit us over on Instagram to find out more about what we do. And if you enjoyed listening, please don't forget to rate and review Smart Beauty on iTunes, as it helps people find us. See you next time.